Hi, I'm Dave Allen with another holiday offering for you on Radio Classics at theradiodadio.com.
Hello there. Get ready to smile again with radio's home folks, Vic and Sade. Vic and Sade, written by Paul Reimer, is brought to you each weekday by the makers of the new Sure Mix Crisco. Friends, on this day, which is Thanksgiving Day in so many of our homes, may we bring you our warm and sincere holiday greetings. At a time when you give thanks for your many blessings for your home and loved ones, we too are thankful for your continued friendliness and loyalty. All of us in this program join the makers of Crisco in wishing you a very happy Thanksgiving. Well, sir, it's a few minutes past 8 o'clock as we enter the small house halfway up in the next block now. And here in the living room we find Mr. and Mrs. Victor Gook spending a quiet evening at home. Vic lounges on the davenport and gazes dreamily at his shoes. Sade is seated in her husband's easy chair beneath the floor lamp, reading aloud from the newspaper. Listen.
The bride, leaning heavily upon the arm of her father, was radiant in a going-away costume of off apricot, with stockings and pumps to match, with burnt caramel accessories and a small cloche hat. She carried a bouquet of mixed garden flowers. Out-of-town guests were Cyrus L. Freach of Kansas City, Missouri, a former employer of the groom, Ed and Will Fulper, Lexington, Illinois, Mr. and Mrs. U.O. Dimp and son Walrab of Red Wing, Minnesota, Harry K. Montgomery of West Pittston, Pennsylvania, Mr. and Mrs. Clark Dunlap of Cleveland, Ohio, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Lacey of Toronto, Ontario, Cad Wallader...
telephone is again.
One answered.
Probably Ruthie's somebody.
No, I'm sure not.
Then let me hazard a guess. It's good old dependable down at the heel, solid concrete foundation, trustworthy Bluetooth Jensen.
Yes.
Hello? Yes? Why, no, he isn't. Who is this? Oh, City.
Huh?
Bluetooth Johnson.
Oh, really?
Good old sweeter than the flowers in May. It matters not who won or lost or how you played the game. Reliable Bluetooth Johnson.
You better talk to him, hadn't you? Otherwise he'll hang up.
Bluetooth? How are you, Bluetooth? Glad to hear it. No, Rush ducked out someplace right after supper. Any message I can give him? Oh? Vernon Pagels is out in the lead? Okay. I see. Tomorrow he's going to buy his second United States defense bond, huh? And that puts him way ahead of the rest of you guys. Okay, Bluetooth. You bet. Goodbye. Where is Button Hook, by the way?
I haven't any idea. He walked out the kitchen door as soon as he finished wiping the dishes. He can't have gone very far or planned to stay away very long. Otherwise he'd have said something. Cadwallader J. Urquhart of Twillman, Oklahoma.
Oh, what's this?
Still reading what the paper states about the wedding.
Oh.
Cadwallader J. Urquhart of Twillman, Oklahoma. Martha, Esther, James, Donald, Arnold, and Eugene Nebel of Indianapolis, Ohio. Mr. and Mrs. R.E. Grief of Cincinnati, Indiana. Mrs. William Yocker and infant daughter Rudolphina Margaret Annabelle Beulah of Fishley, Michigan, and J.U. Epson of O'Brien, Texas, a college classmate of the groom. Quite a turnout,
Yes.
Immediately after the ceremony, the guests...
Oh, here's Stone Bruce. Hi.
Immediately after the ceremony, the guests were served to dainty refreshments at the home of Mr. and Mrs. John H. Weeper, 917 South Center Street. Fun-loving friends of the happy couple painted humorous signs on their motorcycle and decorated the handlebars with old shoes. Since the motorcycle has no sidecar, the newlyweds rode away, one seated behind the other.
Excuse me, people.
Hey.
Kindly forgive the intrusion.
Think no more about it. You live here in the house, and you're entitled to come and go as you please.
Oh.
Good old true blue, heart bigger than all outdoors, reliable old Bluetooth Johnson just phoned.
Yeah?
He said Vernon Pagels is going to buy his second United States defense bond tomorrow.
Oh? That puts him out ahead of everybody.
So Bluetooth allowed.
I thought I'd better drop in and tell you something, man.
What's that?
Nicer Scott is sitting on his front porch steps.
Pretty cold to be doing that, isn't it?
I'm going over and paste him one upside the snoot.
What's this now?
Once more, Nicer's goaded the human body to the point where civilized flesh and blood can't stand it.
Has he?
He has. And I'm going next door and wang him one upside the bean. Thought I'd better notify you first.
Maybe you better sit down.
I can't spare the time. Can't take any chances on letting him escape. Any second, he might go in the house.
Sit down.
Human flesh and blood refuses.
Listen, Willie, I'm good and tired of every little while having to go over and over this business.
Remember tonight at supper? Nicer coming in our kitchen and being nice as pie and obliging as a horse?
I remember.
Axle grease wouldn't melt in his mouth, would it? He was a fine gentleman with the slick manners, wasn't he?
Well, he was certainly polite.
Every second he was in our house, he was casting around his eyes.
What do you mean by that?
He was looking for stuff.
Looking for stuff?
Looking for stuff to pin on me.
I haven't the slightest
Well,
notion what...
he found some stuff to pin on me. What time did we eat supper?
Rush, will you kindly...
6 o'clock, wasn't it? 6 o'clock or a few minutes past? Okay. Well, by 7:30, he'd been all over town with his meanness.
I think...
Strolled up to the corner of Kelsey and Virginia. Smelly Clark, Willis Rohrback, and Leland Richards were sitting under the streetlight. When they saw me, they let out a screech. Mom, in less than an hour and a half, Nicer Scott had made me an object of ridicule before the human race.
Do you ask him what he's talking about?
What's he talking about?
It's my knife and fork.
Knife and fork?
Yeah.
I think the weather's done something to the child.
What about your knife and fork?
When Nicer was in the kitchen tonight during supper, he spotted my knife and fork.
Vinegar crew at old saddle soap. Papa's completely
your little knife and fork?
My little knife and fork.
You have the key to this, mistress?
You know his little knife and fork he eats with.
I eat with him because you put him beside my plate.
I always put him beside your plate. Never heard you complain.
I never complained because it never occurred to me a snake in the grass like Nicer Scott would use him against me.
What did Nicer tell the boys?
He told them, Rush Gook eats with a knife and fork a third the size of regular knives and forks. Rush Gook eats with a knife and fork where there's angels engraved all over and Darling Baby printed on the back.
Oh, why, that little Dickens.
He spread it all over town. I'm the miserable object of public ridicule.
Why, Beth gave him that knife and fork when he was 3 years old. They aren't really baby things. They're smaller than regular knives and forks, but not any 2/3 smaller. A person would have to look twice to tell the difference.
Nicer Scott looked twice. In fact, he must have stood there studying the half-wit knife and fork. He told the guys about the angels engraved all over. Told them about Darling Baby printed on the back.
Well, I expect he did make it sound funny to the kids. A monstrous, great, big, grown-up high school gentleman, 14 years old, using sweet, dainty little knives and
He's
forks.
made it sound funny, and he's had his fun. Now I'm going over and smash his head.
Oh, no, you're not.
You suggest I leave him get away with this?
I suggest you sit still.
Right this minute, he's seated on his bottom front porch step. Wouldn't take me 4 seconds to step over and paste him one upside the snoot.
Well, you're not going to do it.
Imagine. Come over to our house this evening while we were eating supper. It was all friendship and soft talk and high-class manners. Been a warm day, Miss Gook. You're looking well, Mr. Gook. I see you enjoy jelly on your bread, Rush. And all the time, his eye was roving around. He spotted my little knife and fork with the angels on it and Darling Baby printed on the back. He got the details well in mind. Then he excused himself and went outdoors and run like the dickens all over town to spread the news. Well, you should have heard the screaming and yelling when I showed up at the corner of Kelsey and Virginia. On a kind of Nicer Scott's polite visit this evening, I'm now a miserable object of public ridicule.
Oh, I doubt if it's that bad.
It is that bad. I'm going over and punch his dim-witted jaw.
I say you're not. Now, listen, Rush, we've been through this business again and again and again, and you ought to understand by now I don't intend to take chances on being on the outs with next-door neighbors. Kids' quarrels is one thing, and grown-up quarrels is another.
Probably somebody calling up to Josh.
Well, answer it. You're right there.
Gee, wouldn't it be wonderful if it was good old trustworthy, love me, love my dog, Mary is a grand old name, reliable Bluetooth Johnson again?
Hello? Oh, hello, Leroy. Leroy Snow. What is your business, Leroy? Will you repeat your question, please? No, Leroy, I do not wear a baby bonnet when I go to bed. No, and I don't wear bibs or booties either. Was that all, Leroy? Very well, Leroy. Not at all, Leroy. Anytime, Leroy. Only too happy, Leroy. Certainly, Leroy. Depend upon it, Leroy. Now allow me to bid you goodbye, Leroy. Goodbye, Leroy. See?
They're just having a little fun at your expense, Sam.
I'll smash Nicer Scott's chin.
Of course, he'll do nothing of the kind.
Pete, allow me to tell you a little story about Benjamin Franklin and what he said to his manservant while flying a kite near the city of Philadelphia early in the year 1820. It just so happened this man, the servant's name was Charlie, and there was nothing he liked better than bread with sugar on it. Well, sir, according to history, Benjamin
Cell
Franklin...
phone is ringing.
Oh, so it is, by George. If it could only be good old brown as a berry, even Stephen, dependable Bluetooth Johnson.
Hello? Oh, yes, Milton. Milton Welch. What brings you to the telephone, Milton? Hope you didn't disturb me while I was sitting on my father's knee while he sung me to sleep, huh? Not at all, Milton. I assure you I wasn't sitting on my father's knee being sung sleep. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You bet. Well, just awful nice of you to call. Yes, indeed. I'll call again sometime, won't you? You bet. Okay, Milton. Sure thing, Milton. Goodbye, Milton. Wonderful stuff. I will step next door and fix Nicer Scott good.
No, you won't. But let's talk about making a camel's back out of a molehill. Now, what do you care? It is kind of halfway comical, a big 14-year-old high school gentleman using a dainty little knife and fork with darling baby on it to eat his supper with.
Is it kind of halfway comical a baboon like Nicer Scott would enter my private home like a wolf in sheep's clothing?
Sure. You'd probably have done the same thing. I bet if you caught Heine Call across the street eating his supper with a little knife and fork like yours, you'd...
Wait, telephone is ringing.
I'll get it.
Always something, huh?
Hello? Yes? Who? I seem to recognize the voice, but I can't quite place it. Mildred? Mildred who, please? Risdell? Fisdell? Bizdell? T like in Tom... Oh, Tisdell. Oh, sure, I recollect you now. Mildred Tisdell, isn't it?
Hey is right.
What is your business, Mildred? Mildred. Do I feed myself with my little knife and fork, or do my parents do it? Uh-huh. Why, I feed myself, Mildred. Yes. Not at all, and thanks for calling. Certainly. Certainly. Goodbye, Miss Ricedale, or whatever it is. Ah, yes, Gisdell. Goodbye, Miss Gisdell. See, even the girls.
You lead a miserable life.
I'll go next door and lop Nicer Scott's ears down around his chin.
I don't think you will. Listen, you can explain to your friends it was your mother's fault. It is, too. I've always thought of that little engraved knife and fork as being what Rush uses to eat with. Year after year, ever since he started eating with knives and forks, I've put them beside his plate. And like I say, they're not actually baby things. They're almost as big as regular knives and forks. When I set the table, I invariably get 'em out of the drawer and put 'em beside Willie's plate. It's never crossed my mind I had a grown-up 14-year-old man for a son and was giving him knives and forks covered over with angels and marked darling baby. Silly, huh? Oh, forgive me, Ashtray.
Oh, it's okay, I guess.
Is it?
Sure.
Begin to see the comical side, huh?
Yeah.
Well, where are you going?
Upstairs.
Read a nice book?
Well,
that's fine.
Oh.
I'll put your little knife and fork away in the buffet someplace.
Okay.
Stuff happens, don't it? Stuff happens. Where was I here in my newspaper piece? Why, say, I left out a whole paragraph.
Did you?
List of names. Out-of-towners. Mr. and Mrs. David Yasher and Sons Chauncey and Beef of Pittsburgh, Iowa. Flick K. Pratt, Jr., Mulish, Vermont. Sidney, Lila, Hobart, Gus, Vivian, Grace, Howard, and Stungle Houch, Dismal Seepage, Ohio. And Miller Y. Miller of Itcher, Montana. A real turnout, Immediately after the ceremony, the guests were served to dainty refreshments at the home of Mr. and Mrs. John H. Weeper, 917 South Center Street. Fun-loving friends of the happy young couple painted humorous signs on their motorcycle and decorated the handlebars with old shoes. Since the motorcycle has no sidecar, the newlyweds rode away, one seated behind the other.
Well, seems like there's always something doing at that small house halfway up in the next block. So be sure to come along when we visit Vic and Sade the next time. This is Ed Hurley speaking.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanksgiving, what a memorable day. We've certainly come a long way since that day in 1648 when the Indians stepped out of the forest and presented an armful of turkeys and a basket of grain to Captain Crosby. Brave people. What brave people. They were a small, struggling minority who gathered together and fought the hardships of the country. They called themselves Pilgrims, which was later changed to Republicans. The Indians were very kind and brought the Pilgrims good luck and security, which is more than I can say for my Indians. Just picture the excitement aboard the Mayflower as they reached America, and the captain shouts, "Look, it's America," just as Drew Pearson predicted. Of course, Thanksgiving has changed in the days of the Pilgrims. Today, a turkey costs more than the whole Mayflower did. And the Pilgrims would be amazed to see how a modern housewife prepares Thanksgiving dinner. She uses a frozen turkey, frozen peas, frozen carrots, and frozen cranberries. When she's through, she doesn't say dinner's ready. She just points at the food and says, "Mush." They had a United Nations dinner in Washington. The dinner took 8 hours. Every time someone tried to pass anything, Russia vetoed it. But it's a wonderful season, Thanksgiving. Of course, all my relatives will be over for Thanksgiving dinner. I know they will. They're circling over the house now. I went down and ordered our turkey at the supermarket this morning. Supermarket, that's the Taj Mahal with cantaloupes. I wanted to be sure of a nice turkey for Thanksgiving, so I walked up to the butcher and said, "Can a medium-sized hen be reserved?" He said, "Some of them can, but you got to watch out for the redheads." Of course, you can buy a turkey almost cooked, and one store in Beverly Hills really overdoes it. Instead of just basting the turkeys, they turn them over every hour and massage them with lanolin plus. Everybody's shopping. When I walked in the supermarket, the manager got a grocery cart for me. I said, "Why do you always give me a cart with a squeaky wheel?" He said, "We've only got one store, Detective Hope. We can't watch everybody." Jack Benny was in the store doing his Thanksgiving shopping. He's been there all day. Somebody told him there were 18,000 cranberries in a quart. But Jack was glad when he finished counting. The store had tried to gyp him. The bag they sold him was 3 cranberries short. Liberace's having a tough time getting a turkey, but that's understandable. It's pretty hard to find one shaped like a piano, don't you? But I'll never forget Thanksgiving when I was a kid back in Cleveland. It was really fascinating to watch my brother eat. He was the first kid in Cleveland who had teeth with power steering. One year, Dad took pictures of us kids eating, but they came out a little blurred. No camera has yet been invented that can work at that speed. But Thanksgiving is a time of goodwill when we share our blessings with those less fortunate than ourselves. They have that spirit even in Washington. In fact, there's hardly a Republican who isn't inviting a Democrat to Thanksgiving dinner.
Have a great holiday season, everyone. From Radio Classics at the RadioDaddio.com. I'm Dave Allen.